Shannon Baker, welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Writer podcast.
It's good to be here, as always.
You're
We
back in
missed
Tucson.
you. Tucson is hot.
Yeah.
But it's going to start going down. We missed you so much at the Rocky
Uh,
Mountain Fiction Writers Colorado Gold Conference. It just wasn't the same without you. And then you being Writer of
uh,
the Year and not being there, it was so sad.
I missed it. I was in pain all weekend. Not literally in pain because
Yeah,
I,
more
I
the ways than one.
yeah, it wasn't a bad case of COVID, but it was just enough to, well, it was a no-brainer. I couldn't put myself in the middle of 300 people with a positive case of COVID, but so made it an easy choice, and it really wasn't that debilitating. It just was the worst timing ever. So
Oh, it was so sad. Yeah.
yeah. What did you think of the conference this year? How did it go?
It was really good. I didn't go last year because VoucherCon was the same weekend and I was on the VoucherCon team there. So I had missed it for 2 years and it was really nice to be back. I love the new venue. A lot of new faces, which is really great. It's so nice to see new faces in the leadership and taking charge. And you need new blood to bring in new ideas. Otherwise, like me, I would just do it the same way time after time because it seemed to work, and that's fine. And I'm not. So it was really, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, we just talked to Kevin Wolf, and I think he said 40% of the attendees were first timers.
Yeah, it was great. It was
That's
great.
really, yep, fantastic. Well, a number of things to talk to you about. You are just back from a really interesting tour. With how many total writers were on that tour?
It- um, so there were 5 or 6 depending on the night. Um,
Okay.
gosh, it was so much fun. So it was all set up pretty much by Jess Lowry, who had a book launch. It was her book launch, The Taken Ones, and it was all in Minnesota. I happened to have a daughter who just moved to Minneapolis, so it was double time for me. My youngest daughter drove up from Omaha, so we got some daughter mom time, which was a lot of fun. But um, Minnesota library system in Hennepin County, I don't know if it's all Minnesota, but Hennepin County has an amazing program. And so they were really happy to host us. We went 2 nights to 2 separate libraries, and they had, I'm going to say 30 people there. And a bookseller came, Devin Abrams from Once Upon a Crime came both those nights and sold books, and she sold quite a few. So so and then there was a book launch at Devin's place, Once Upon a Crime in Minneapolis. And then we did another book signing at a newer-ish bookstore, Comma, which is so cute. It's such a nice bookstore in Minneapolis. So that was fun. And then so that was with Jess Lowry, of course, and Lori Raderday, who just had a book come out in September. And I think September. And Tony Wirt, who is a new Thomas and Mercer. It was his debut. So he just had a new one come out. Oh gosh, what is the name of it? It's escaped me. Sorry, Tony.
We'll put it. We'll put it. It's okay.
Yeah,
We'll
in
get
the
it up.
notes.
Yeah.
And one night at the book launch, Christy Belcamino came, who is a Minneapolis writer, and she's also with my publisher. Plus, she does a lot of indie pub stuff. She writes really amazing stuff. And so it was just fun going from place to place like that.
Yeah.
And then I flew home, and Tony and Lori and Jess went on to Iowa and did a couple signings in Iowa, and then they went up to Chicago and finished up there.
Yeah.
So
did you find that advantageous to be in a group?
For me, yes, absolutely, because I can ride on everybody's coattails. Lori and Jess are really wildly successful. And so it's really nice to throw in with them. And Jess always invites me to her stuff, which is way generous and way nice. And I have so much fun. It was just, it's a lot of fun to hang out with your crew. And,
Yeah.
Jess and Lori and and Susie Calkins and Erica. Oh my gosh, I forgot Erica Ruth
Yeah.
Neubauer. Oh my gosh. Oh, Erica, I'm so sorry.
That's all
She
right.
was with us the whole time.
Yeah.
And she went on to
Well,
Iowa and Chicago. So
there's some.
yeah, we have a kind of a crew, we call it a squad. And so it was really nice just to hang out with them, because I get so much through osmosis just hanging out with these super successful writers. I can't even tell you how much I learned just being in the same room, just soaking it up. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Who put it all together? Were you part of the planning team or?
I wasn't, which makes it even better. I just got
Yeah.
to go along, but Jess set up like the Hennepin counties. She was libraries. She was on that. I think Tony set up a couple of signings because he's from Rochester. He lives in Rochester, so he set up a couple of signings there. I'm not sure who did the Iowa signings, but the Chicago signings, I think, were Lori set all those up.
Yeah.
So it was a joint effort. And now I think that I need to reciprocate and have them down to Southern Arizona.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
see if I can set up some stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good idea to kind of, if you've got a book coming out, to kind of look around you and see other authors who might have something coming out. And if you team up, and I've done this before, even just for one or two events, it kind of creates a different energy. And you get, because if you're in the same city, sometimes you've got their people and you've got your people, and that creates a little more critical mass in the room, at least.
Well, and I haven't done any much promoting at all in the last few years. I don't know, just kind of got the stuffing knocked out of me, and I just wasn't that interested. But this got me really kind of fired up. And so when I came back, I have a book launching in January. And my friend Becky Masterman, who is an Edgar Award nominee for her first book several years ago, but she's got a new book coming out. She hasn't published for a few years, so she's got a new book coming out. She's in Tucson. And Rosemary Simpson, who publishes with Kensington, who does historicals, has a book coming out, I believe, in November. So I got all fired up when I got home, and I called them and said, how about we do some book signings coming up in January? So we've got some things going in the works. So hopefully, and they're like me. It's like, promoting is hard. It takes some effort, and it takes some, especially if you're an introvert, like most of us writers are, it takes some energy. And sometimes it's just easier to say, I'm just not into it. So you get somebody else going, then you can at least go out for a cocktail afterwards if it's all the fuss.
There you go. That's true. That's true. Were all the ones in the Minneapolis area, were those all crime fiction writers on your traveling squad?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily makes for a nice common theme for the evening, but yeah, you could probably do mix of genres too if you wanted, but yeah.
We could. And as far as reciprocity with them having me up to Minnesota, and I do get people come down for the Tucson Book Festival, so it's fun to get them onto panels, and then they kind of stay with me, so it isn't all one way.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, fantastic. Well, tell us what's coming out in January.
January is book 8 of the Kate Fox series, and it is I got to think, it's Bullseye. I turned it in quite a while ago. It's Bullseye, and I always wanted to write something in the rodeo world, and because there's big money in rodeo, and I didn't actually get into rodeo, but I got into rough stock, which is and the bull riding circuit has now, it's not only in pro rodeo rodeos, but they have a whole bull riding circuit, and so you have just bull riding. They also have bulls. I didn't realize they have bulls that futurities and the young bulls, like 2 years old and stuff, they don't actually have riders. They just strap a box onto them and buck, and there's bucking competitions that way too. So there's
Wow.
lots and lots of money in bulls, and where there's money, there's crime.
Yeah. Well, and for those who don't know, set us up with Kate Fox. Give us a
Oh,
idea. Yeah.
So Kate Fox, this, as I said, this is book 8. She is the lone sheriff in a county the size of Connecticut in the Nebraska Sandhills. So Sandhills has about 0.9 people per square mile. And so she's got a whole lot of autonomy. It's really the Wild West. And in the books, she has a whole cast of characters. She's one of 9 kids, and she's right in the middle. So there's always family things going on, and so again, without that many people, it's hard to keep creating crimes and murders and things. But there's lots of places to hide the bodies out there. So
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had her, in book 5 and 6, I did take her I took her out of the Sandhills, so she had some crimes in other places she could investigate. But then I brought her back, and this is double back. This is the latest that came out in April, and the next one's coming out in January, and then book 9 will come out October 2024, a year from now.
Yeah.
It's on
Wow.
pre-order already. I turned it in. It's on
Wow.
pre-order. As soon as I turn it in, they make a cover and it goes on pre-order. We still have to do a lot of the editing of it, but it's pre-order now.
And what's the
And then
title of that one?
that is Close Range. And then book 10 will be Parting Shot, because
Wow.
book 10, I'm wrapping it up.
Wow. So Bullseye in January, Parting Shot,
Close Range,
Close Range, and
and
Parting
then
Shot.
Parting Shot.
Wow. Okay. And why are you wrapping it up?
A couple reasons, but mainly because I haven't been out to the Sandhills for 9 years, and technology itself has come swept in, so they don't ranch the same way I ranched when I was there 20 years ago, and I just haven't traveled back out there to experience it all, and I'm kind of losing the feel for what it smells like and feels like, and the cadence of the dialogue and things. It's time for me to move on to Tucson.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, it's a 10-book series is a 10-book series, and it's done very well.
It really took off when I got my new publisher. So it was the first 2 books were published with Forge, which was fine, but they put them out in hardcover, and I wasn't somebody they were that interested in. It was just like, let's see if this is going to fly, and it didn't fly with them. But when I got my rights back, and my new publisher, Severn River Publishing, took them on, and mostly at that point they were mostly digital. So, and they're very good marketers. So they did take off, and it isn't just because they're good marketers. I mean, I have a lot of readers who have left me some nice reviews. So I feel really proud of the Kate Fox series, but it's time to move on.
And it's not your only series that you've got up and running.
It is not. I have a Border Patrol. Well, it started out with Arizona Rangers and then morphed into Border Patrol. So I've got 2 books in that series. I doubt I'll revisit that, because the border is just so fraught, and it's so upsetting for me to write about, that I just don't want to go back there. I don't need to do that. But the book that they're going to repackage and relaunch is the first book that Severn River bought from me, and it is one of my most favorite books that I've ever written. It's nothing like Kate Fox. It's dark suspense, psychological suspense. It's called The Desert Behind Me, and they're going to repackage it. It's got a new cover that I'm going to send to you so you can see it, and we're gonna launch that again and see if we can get more interest. People that read it like it. People just haven't read it. So get people to read it.
And that was their idea. They just came to you.
Yes. I can't tell you how much I love my publisher.
Yeah.
One of the marketing people sent me a text or an email maybe a month or two ago, and she said I pitched it to them to relaunch this because I didn't. She didn't like the cover either, and so they a new cover, a new cover copy, and we're gonna go at it again. And she said, as she said, psychological suspense is big. It is big, and
Yeah.
so I'm very excited about that.
And what's the timing on that being re-released?
I don't really know.
Okay.
Soon, I think.
Yeah.
Probably
Wow.
in the next month, maybe. Maybe
Wow.
not even that long.
Wow.
I don't know. Because they have the
Wow.
copy and they have the cover. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
And no changes to the text. It's same exact story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. That must feel fantastic. I mean, that book goes what, back 7 or 8, 9, 10 years? I don't know.
No, it would be probably 2018 or 19.
Oh, okay. All right.
A while.
Okay.
It was,
Yeah. Yeah. Must feel great to just know that they see something in it and they think they can get behind it and do a better job of getting it out there. That's fantastic.
It is. I'm because like I said, I've always been proud of that book. It's the one book my sister, gotta love sisters. She said after, Kate books and Nora Abbott books and the Michaela Sanchez. So I published a fair amount of books, which she had not read all of them. She's a sister, whatever. So she read this book while she was at my house, and she didn't move. She just sat and read this book like for 2 days and got it done. And she looked at me and she goes, "Finally, you've written something I love."
Wow. Nice.
Bless her heart.
That's great. Well, I recently saw a photo, which you posted, of your publisher sending you a plaque, reaching a huge milestone. 100,000 copies of your books, Shannon Baker, are out there in the world. You picture a big stadium, maybe 75 or 80,000 people there for a football game on the weekend, or the Rose Bowl, I guess, can hold 100,000. That's a heck of a lot of readers.
I was really excited to get that, but I'm not the only writer that has this terrible imposter syndrome. So I celebrated for like 5 minutes, and then I was like, "Is that a lot? I don't know if that's a lot." And then I had lunch with a bookseller a couple days later, and I said, "I got this." I said, "I don't know whether to be excited about it or not." I said, "Is like 100,000 books what Craig Johnson would sell the first week of a new launch?" And she goes, "Yeah, probably."
Yeah.
So
I don't
it
know
all puts it into perspective.
Yeah. It's sort of interesting though, because we can always look up the hill. Even Craig Johnson probably looks up the hill to Stephen King or CJ Box or somebody who does even better than he does and thinks, what can I do to get there? And I remember, being at an earlier point in my career and looking up the hill to maybe where I sort of am today and doing okay. And but yeah, I think you and I both look at Jess Lowry and go, wow,
Yeah,
she's just rocking it. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a useful thing to compare yourself in some ways, and also you just have to put that aside, because what can you actually do about it other than just keep writing and trying to write a better, newer? You just keep writing, right?
Yeah. That it's what my husband said to me when I went, "Oh," he said, "Just stop a minute." He said, "Do you remember when you had not published a book and you had a manuscript and you said, 'I'm just going to put it in a drawer'?" And I said, "No, send it out." And I hadn't been published at all. And he said, "Do you remember how excited you were to get that contract?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Be happy about this.
Yeah. 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 Take us inside your day, Shannon. I mean, the typical question about writing process, but you really are in a groove. You are dedicated, obviously. You have to be writing every day, I would assume, or at least X number of hours a week to be able to produce at the level you're producing.
I generally write when I'm working on a draft, I generally write 2,000 words a day. And then, so that'll get me a draft. And then I try to write like 5 days. Actually, what I go for is 10,000 words a week when I'm working on a draft.
Yeah.
And I try to portion that out in 2,000 words a day. Oftentimes, because I'm OCD, I'll work 7 days a week. But if the writing's flowing, I can do 2,000 words in 2 hours, and then I'm done. Mostly, it takes most of the morning. So half time of that. But then when I'm in editing mode, it'll be like 6-hour days at my desk. And then like today, after this, I think I'm going hiking.
Yeah.
So the autonomy of being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it is really great.
Yeah. And how about just ideas going from one project to the next? Are you always accumulating ideas and keeping a list, or how does that go?
No, I am a one idea writer. And then when the book is kind of coming to the end, I start to panic about what I'm going to do next. Always, my whole life, I've been like this. And I've been so jealous of people that ideas just come like kamikazes, But here's the weird thing. In the last 6 months or so, I've just been bombarded with ideas. And, and I can tell you why. It's because Uranus is big. The planet.
Astrology.
The planet Uranus.
Yeah. An astrology thing.
Yeah, it's an astrology thing. No, I don't know. In July, because it's really hot here. So July, August are kind of like in the north. January and February, you just kind of hole up inside. I wrote a women's fiction book, a draft, the entire draft in 6 weeks. And I really like it. And it's just sitting there right now. I just wrote the first draft. It's a mess. And I just kind of set it aside. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I think I need to stay in my wheelhouse right now, which is mystery thriller. And so I've got a thriller, I guess I'm going to call it a thriller, with an independent editor right now, which is dealing with the mafia in Tucson. Fun fact.
Wow.
In the 1970s, Joe Bonanno, who was the father of one of the 5 families in New York, retired. He's the only mafia boss that retired. He retired and moved to Tucson. Moved to Tucson. And so there is mafia ties here in Tucson. So I've taken that and set it contemporarily with a woman. And
wow. And so, does your publisher know about that you're cooking up something along those lines?
They don't know. They know that something's coming. So I've got that. I've got another book that I'm going to propose, which would be another suspense. The Mafia one could be a series, 3 or 4 book series. I can see that. Another suspense. And then I've got another idea, which would be less dark, have more humor in it, more along the tone of the Kate Fox books. But so I've got these 3 ideas to pitch to my publisher to see if they want any of them. And hopefully they'll want at least one.
Wow. That's just, I mean, you are juggling a lot. You mentioned this contemporary women's fiction novel that's just sitting there ready to be developed, I guess.
Yeah.
And multiple other ideas. Does it feel fun to wake up in the morning and to say, here's what I'm going to work on today?
It does feel fun. I mean, it feels weird because it's like, as I said, it's never happened that way for me before. I'm usually walking around going, why do I not? Everyone's saying, oh, I've got so many ideas, I could never write them. And I think, not me. I don't. Give me one. Just give me one.
Yeah. So if you could take all of this and looking at yourself now and what you're doing, your schedule, your activity, and going back again to that moment, maybe when your husband asked you about that first manuscript before you had your first contract, how would you put all those thoughts and ideas in. If I were a up and coming writer coming to you saying, Shannon, how do I go about this business? What are some of the keys to you about kind of just making your way at the beginning?
I think I would say be the tortoise, just slow and steady, just because at that time, as most people, I was working full time. I was working full time. I didn't have kids anymore, which was a big thing. Once the kids leave the home, that creates a lot more space to work, but just keep at it. I mean, when I started writing, I had little kids and everything was a struggle, and I didn't write a lot. I mean, but I wrote almost daily. And, maybe it was 1,000 words, maybe it was 500, maybe it was something. And I would take occasionally a day off when things just went unwieldy and I couldn't figure out where the novel was going. I would take a personal day off and read it all and lay it all out and figure out the next steps. But and I was angsty about it. I'm never going to get there, but I kept going. And I think that's it. You just keep going. It's the people that stay in a long time and pay their dues that make it.
Yeah. There's something also, I think, to that point, just about sticking with it. You do get better. You do get better, and you think at the time you think it's in really good shape. You think you've got a great book, but after you write 3 or 4 and look back, or 4 or 5 and look back, and you see what you wrote at first, you realize that you've grown as a writer.
Yeah, you can't not grow as a writer if you're paying attention. Now, if you think you know it all and you're as good as you're ever going to get, then you won't get any better. But boy, this Jess Lowry just resold her whole Murder by Month series to
Right.
Thomas and Mercer. They're going to put them out again, and she's gone back and edited the first 6 books, and she's like, whoa, have I grown as a writer? It's amazing. Yep. And they were good books. I read them the first time through. They were fun and funny and engaging and good. So
yeah, but when you get to that point where you've got your own personal standards, that you look back and you say, that prose, that way I shaped that scene, the way I built that chapter, the way I introduced that character, once you understand your own personal standards, I think that just shows you that your ability to improve as a writer is really there, and it's innate. It's you can look back and say, I got better. Yeah.
And there's always those pockets of things you want to improve. For a long time it was, I want to understand point of view really. And now the last several books I've been working on emotion, how to grab that emotion and bring it out in the reader without writing, flowery, because there's a line in there. How do I make my reader feel something by using language that is evocative without just being stupid over the top?
Yeah.
And I write over the top, and then an editor will go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Bring that one back. That metaphor is just crazy.
Yeah. Very good. Wow. Well, congratulations, Shannon.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. As we wrap up, we always like to pay it forward a little bit, recommend a book, recommend a writer, give you a chance to shine a light on somebody else.
You asked me this, and I wish I would have thought. I just read Aaron Adams' book, Jackal, which, if you like creepy, that's really creepy. It's a good time of year to do that. So that's a good book. I finished The Taken Ones by Jess Lowry, which is first in a series, and it's really good. She's got 2 Minnesota, I think they're cold case investigators. Well, one's a forensics guy, like medical thing. Anyway, those characters are fabulous and fantastic and will really surprise you. And I just read last week Lou Berney's new book, Dark Road, which is, have you read that, Mark?
Dark Ride.
Dark Ride.
Yeah, it's in my queue. I've got,
Oh,
I
so
think it'll
good.
be next week. Yeah. Yep.
It,
Looking forward
it's
to
a
it.
book with talk about emotion. You know, that's when I already loaned it out. That's
Yeah.
when I would like to go back and study how he created so much emotion, because you just feel for these characters so deeply. So yeah, I would recommend
Very
those.
character driven writer. That's for sure. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We'll catch up with you real soon.
Okay, but wait,
Oh.
and okay, thank you, Mark, for having me. But what I want to know, and maybe you don't want this in the podcast, but maybe you do. I want to know what's coming up with your second book.
Well, I'll leave this part in. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, I just sent a new standalone novel to my agent. Well, he'd read it in September, and then he wanted about some, I don't know, some changes to the end, and they were the emotional. Speaking of that, it was sort of some emotional tweaks at the end. I tended to be a little underplaying some of the emotion, I think, and he wanted a little more juice to it, I think. So hopefully I answered his call. But yeah, he got it. What's today? Today's Tuesday, and I think I sent it to him on Friday. So waiting for him to see what he thinks of my changes. So yeah.
Good. And then you'll send that on to Thomas and Mercer, or no? Who are
To
you? You were
to
Lake Union.
Lake Union. Yeah, if he approves it, then he'll ask my editor at Lake Union to take a look. And Josh did like the first draft quite a bit. So yeah, I'm
Oh,
pretty
that's exciting.
yeah. So
And then you
another
go on that grueling editing journey.
yes. Well, we'll see if it got we need a contract first, and hopefully that will get to that point. So, but
Well, I
thanks for
thought you had.
asking.
I thought the Fireballer was a 2-book.
They have a right of first refusal on it, and
Okay.
so that's all. And they could easily just pass. So, got to keep my hopes in check here. Yeah.
Well, I'm rooting for you.
Thanks, Shannon, and thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Mark. It's always nice to see your face.
Great.